I'm done sharing this morning. I truly appreciate you. Grab your Bibles, John the 4th chapter. John the 4th chapter. John the 4th chapter. Starting at the 9th verse. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans." Jesus answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of God, who it is who you're asking, saying to you, or who's saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you the living water." The woman said to her, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered and said to her, "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give them will never thirst again. But the water that I shall give him will become like a fountain of water springing up in his everlasting life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, that I may not thirst nor come to draw again." Jesus said, "Go call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You have well said, I have no husband. For you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you're with now is not your husband. In that you truly spoke." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worship on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where we ought to worship." I want y'all to get to this point. The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshiped on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where we ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither worship on this mountain or in Jerusalem, but you will worship the Father. You worship what you do not know or where you are. You do not worship who he is. For we know that when we worship the Savior of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth." I read that. It's a little long this morning. I read that, but I want you to get to this morning. I have been hearing so much about people complaining that the church doors are not open. People have been complaining. They're complaining, and they even I heard some people talking about going to the governor and the government about shutting down the church. But my question to you today is, who you worshiping? What are you worshiping? Because what God is saying to us is this: you can still worship me. Yes, today is Resurrection Sunday, and I know a lot of us, we're so used to having and doing different things on worship on this Resurrection Sunday. I remember growing up, we used to have you had to have a new outfit, you had to have a hat, you had to have coat, you get everybody all dressed up for this occasion. And they end up spending more money on stuff than they were worshiping God. So my question to you today is, can you still worship God even though your church doors ain't open today? Can you still worship him even though you can't congregate with people today? Can you still worship him because you don't have a new outfit today? Can you still worship him because you ain't had to spend money? Can you still worship him? And that's what he's talking to the woman about. He's telling the woman, he says, you're so busy looking at the well when the one you're supposed to be worshiping is standing right in front of you. He says right here, he says, at some point, sometime, you will not be able to worship on this mountain again. Yeah. But until then, can you still worship me? If you can't come to this mountain where your father and your grandfather gave you this well, if you can't come here, will you still worship me? That's what question for today. Since you can't get to church today, will you not worship him? Can you still worship him even though you can't get to the church doors, get through the church doors today? My question is, he wants to know, will you still worship me? You see, because worship has nothing to do with the building. Worship has nothing to do with this new outfit you want. Worship has nothing to do with congregating together. Worship is a personal thing. Did you get up this morning and took time out and begin to worship him? Here it is, because on this day we celebrate him getting up. We celebrate him, the resurrection. But can you celebrate him without going without the church? You know, we got to get to church. We got to get to church. We got to get in this building. Well, I know from my understanding of the reading of the Bible, the church is not the building. You are the church.
That's right.
So you ought to be worshiping him in your church. Are you still worshiping him this morning because you can't get to a building? Did that stop your worship? Here's what he says to her. He said, don't let this well stop your worship. He said, if you knew who you were standing here talking to, he said, if you knew who you were standing here talking to, you will break out into worship right now. It ain't got nothing to do with this mountain. It has nothing to do with going into Jerusalem. All it has to do with is having a personal relationship. Right now, he even tells her, he says, let me show you what you're worshiping, what things you put ahead of me. You put this mountain ahead of me. You put the men you have ahead of me. You put everybody ahead of me. But today, he says, everything you got still don't matter. I'm here. You can worship me now. I love what he said to the woman. He says, woman, believe me. He says, the hour is coming where you will neither worship on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You will be able to worship the Lord. Now, that's what it is. Many of us are not able to get into the church buildings. You're not able to get to the congregation, but you still got an opportunity to worship him. Can you still worship without going to the building? Can you worship him without having a new outfit? Can you worship him? Oh, come on. Without having, see who then in the church, or can you worship him without the pastor preaching, shouting you down? Can you worship him? Do you have a personal relationship with him that I don't have to have none of this other stuff? All I need is him. My worship is for real. Listen, I don't have to have nobody to pump me up. I don't have to have nobody to tell me to shout. I don't have to have nobody to tell me to clap my hands. I can do it on my own. I am going to worship him whether I'm in the building or whether I'm outside. My worship don't change. Whether I got money in my pocket or whether I'm broke as a joke, my worship don't change. Whether I'm sitting on a high mountain or down in the low valleys, my worship will not change. Can you say the same? He says to the woman, you will neither on this mountain or in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you don't know. We know what we worship, for the salvation is of the Jews. Watch this. But the hour is coming. The hour is coming. Jesus was talking to them then, but he's also talking to us now. The hour is not coming. The hour has come. For those of you scholars, Bible scholars, the hour has come. It's come, and now is when the true worshipers will worship the Father. Let me say that again. The true worshiper, those who refuse to let anything stop them from worshiping him. Yes. Where are the true worshipers? You don't have to get out of your car and dance in the middle of the street. You don't have to. Let your voice be let your hands be lifted. You let your heart be refreshed. He is looking for true worshipers. Those who don't care what is going on around them. Those who don't care, it is where I'm not or where I am. He's looking for you today. The true worshipers. The true worshipers. You can't get to your church, so your worship been messed up. You can't get with your people. You can't get there to show off your new dress this morning. So your big hat. So now your worship is messed up. But he said the hour is coming and it's happening now. Now is the time when the true worshipers should worship the Father. Watch this. In spirit and in truth. In spirit. Not building. In spirit, not new clothing. In spirit. Oh my goodness. He says, when we ought to be worshiping the Father in spirit and with truth. The truth is, Jesus got up this morning for us. The truth is, I'm going to worship him regardless. That's the truth. The truth is, he loves us. That's the truth. The truth is, he raised us up again this morning. That's the truth. The truth is, he has given us eyes to see. That's truth. He has given us, y'all hear, this is truth. So why aren't you not worshiping? You ought to worship him out of your spirit because of the truth. And the truth is, he still loves us. He loves us enough that he gave his only begotten son to die on our behalf. Some of you sitting here right now, you won't even go to the store on somebody else's behalf. Worth about dying for some folk. Those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. For the Father is seeking. He's seeking. That is looking for folk to worship him. He's looking for people to work. He's looking for you, true worshipers. He's looking for your worship this morning. He's looking. He's expecting you to worship him this morning. Let me tell you. Because what we do is we get to church and we want to see if I can out worship you. Let me tell you something. Stop it. That's why. This is the opportunity right here, right now, while this pandemic is going on. Here it is, where you ought to start working on you. Stop worrying about everybody else and start working on you. Get your relationship with God in order. Get yourself in line with God and get yourself in order. Y'all hear what I'm saying? He says, I am looking for those to worship me. Come on. He's expecting you to worship. Not just this morning because it's resurrection morning. He's looking for worship every morning. Don't let this message this morning be only for this morning. This is an everyday message. Every day we ought to get up. Even if your job has been closed, even if they ain't sent you your stimulus check yet, even if you ought to get up and you ought to find the time, here it is, to worship him. You ought to worship him because you're alive. You ought to worship him because he has blessed you again. You ought to worship him because your family is still alive. You ought to worship, y'all, come on, that you are healed. You ought to worship him. He said, worship me in spirit and in truth. I am seeking those who shall worship me. When you worship me, he said, but God is, I want y'all to get this and I'm done. He said, God is spirit. And those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. You got to come out of you. You got to come out of your mindset. You got to stop worrying about this flesh. You got to stop worrying about the things where you are or where you're not. You got to stop worrying about your money. And you got to start worship him out of spirit, not out of flesh. You got to worship him out of your spirit, not out of flesh. Because every time you try to worship him out of flesh, flesh starts showing you what you don't have. Flesh starts showing you where you are. Flesh starts showing you how hard it is. But he says, I need you to worship me out of your spirit. And today, it starts. So are you going to worship him? Are you not going to worship him because you can't get to church or to the building? No. He said, worship me in spirit and in truth. Again, I love you. I appreciate you. I thank God for you. I want you to keep igniting your faith. And remember, life is better when you have living faith. God bless you. We'll talk to you again on next week. I'll be right here for a few more minutes. 803-533-1029. Catch me at 11 o'clock on my Facebook page for our worship service. God bless you.
The preceding broadcast came to you live from the studios of Old School 1029. It's sponsored by Living Faith Ministries with Pastor.
Good morning, sir. How are you? How are you? All is well. All is well.
Sunday morning praise and ministry is here at 102.9 Old School 1029.
We thank God for, man.